All right, Coach. So coming off such a great week, and you had the short week this week. How do you guys handle that?
Yeah, I mean, I think short weeks are always a little bit tough. I think on your players, on your coaches. I just think once you start finding a rhythm, especially when you get into the back half of the season, getting off that rhythm is a little bit tough. But the thing about this is we both have the same amount of time to prepare for this game, and so you always feel, I think, as you're preparing on Sunday and Monday, jumping right back into it, I think you feel a little rushed in that, and it's always about going back. And I think the older our team, we got a bunch of mature guys, I think, that have played a ton of football by this point, and I think that helps. But obviously, you get into what's Tuesday now, and then Wednesday tomorrow. Usually, it's where by Wednesday afternoon, you want to have the whole game plan in, and so which we do for the most part. I think if there's a couple little things that we find here and there, kind of going back through everything, we will this week. But yeah, I thought we've handled it good. I thought coming back practicing Sunday, was just a walkthrough for the guys, just kind of showing preliminary looks of Charlotte, and then getting into an actual work day on Monday, which is not normal for us. And so I think it's that fine line of how much do you want to put strain on their body. And so we pulled back just a little bit. When we did get our reps, they were still extremely fast, good reps, and added a little bit more walkthroughs in there just to kind of save some of our guys' legs right now. So I thought they've handled it well so far. I mean, I think we got to still be super intentional throughout the next 2 days on getting everything cleaned up, especially in the film room the next 2 days, and get ready to travel early on Thursday.
Yeah, it seems like you guys have been so consistent. Has that been a sign of that you guys have been pretty focused throughout the year?
Yeah, I think so, and too, I think just we've found ways to win in so many different ways. I mean, we've had some games where we've been able to get the lead and establish the lead and keep it. We have games that we've got the lead and allowed people back in the game. We've had games where we didn't have the lead and we kind of had to fight back. And then obviously the one game against South Florida, who was a great opponent, where just a bunch of self-inflicted wounds in that game. And so yeah, I mean, I think as you have more and more success, I think the confidence always continues to rise with your guys. And I think the biggest focal point this week is us handling success and us getting into the work week this week and being able to get back ready and reset after a win and not look forward, not look back, and be able to lock in and perform at a high level this week.
Yeah, and obviously the story of the week is the Regents signed off on going back and discussing your contract again. Just what was your takeaway from them giving that approval?
Yeah, well, my phone, was kind of lit up when I got off the practice field yesterday, and so, but to me, I mean, obviously, I think when you have success, I mean, those things tend to happen, and I'm as good as anybody I'm avoiding distractions during these things as they come up. I have great representation that handles that during the season for me, just because I preach it to the kids all the time. Is being able to push everything. And nothing's more important than us beating Charlotte right now. Now the cool thing is I work. My two bosses are incredible, and I think vertical alignment in this day and age in college football is paramount to success. And to have leadership from our president, Dr. Keller, all the way down to Jared, which has been phenomenal. And so I think that just allows initial conversations to start happening, which luckily my agent will handle all those at this time and be able to talk to those guys. So yeah, it was an interesting surprise to my phone yesterday, but I'm super grateful, obviously, to have our leadership here, and it's been a pleasure to work with those guys and love working with them every day.
Feel good about what you're building here?
Yeah, I think anytime, especially at the G5 level right now, just finding ways to sustain consistency is something that's going to be the secret to success. And I think we've learned a lot the first 2 years, and I think you learn through doing things the wrong way just as much as you do doing things the right way. And so, our coaching staff has done a phenomenal job this year. I think playing complementary football has always been something and a goal of mine. And so just to kind of see those things kind of come to life in real time. I mean, defense has done a phenomenal job of of getting turnovers for us, and we've done a phenomenal job of capitalizing on it and being able to, get the run game going like we have this year. I think is something that you can see us playing and being a little bit more of a complete football team right now. And so, yeah, I mean, hats off to our players and coaches, for being able. I mean, this is a player's game. Will always be a player's game, and if they don't go perform on Saturdays, then you don't have a shot. And so, hats off to those guys.
What does that kind of stability do for a program?
Yeah, I think there's two parts to that. I mean, I think you always want stability in your coaching staff. I think that's huge to having success and sustaining success any way you look at it. And then, two, I think, for us to be able to continue to have good retention here. I mean, I think it hasn't ever been us, finding the right talent or recruiting. I don't think the development piece has ever been a huge issue. I think, the retainment piece of it's the next one. And so for us to be able to retain these guys and keep building off that and creating that camaraderie in the locker room and building those bonds is something that's always super important. And that's not going to look like what it looked like 20 years ago on any front, and that's even, for the blue bloods in our sport right now. I mean, you see people transferring in and out all the time, but if we can be able to keep the majority of your roster and keep building and them knowing your scheme and learning it and coming back with experience, I think that's key.
Coach, while on the topic of your contract negotiation and whatnot, do you have an official statement on just your name coming up in a lot of those other job searches that are happening around the country?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that obviously, just and even with our kids now, I think I've seen this from a whole different lens over the course of the last 2 years of being here, and it's always something that I think that means you're playing really good football at this level. Doesn't matter where you're at. But for me to kind of keep my blinders on and stay focused and committed to everything that's my job right now is something that's vitally important to me, to my family, to my bosses, to all those things. And so I think anytime you try to go off on a different path and thinking about possibilities is never something that's fun. And so super excited about us continuing to have success here and continuing to just find ways to win football games one at a time.
You mentioned that this attention is kind of a sign that you've built something really good here. Just how much growth have you seen from year one into now year three with this program? Yeah,
and that's what trying to keep everybody in this building right now focused on the main thing right now is one of my biggest objectives. And this is a humbling sport, and I think we see it every week. I think you see these upsets that happen, and everybody wants to come back, and how did this happen? How did so-and-so beat so-and-so? And so I think anytime you're dealing, with 18 to 23, 24-year-olds, and they had a lot of stuff going on in their lives, and then now you're dealing with, different squads that are beat up a little bit, because I think the depth is a lot different than what it was, before the transfer portal and before they limited the roster size, all those different things. And so, I think staying healthy is really important, for every team the last 5 or 6 weeks. And then, just to be able to stay in the moment and handle success the right way. And sometimes, for me here, I mean, that's telling people that they're not getting their job done, even though everybody's coming in here smiling because, we're 6-1 right now. And so, yeah, I mean, some of that, it's hard at times to handle those situations from the top, but that's my job, and I got to continue to monitor it every day.
Hey, Coach, obviously last game, you guys had some receivers injured, which kind of limited the ability to spread the ball around, but Wyatt was able to have that big game. So is it good to know that any one of these receivers can really put on that load week in, week out if some of their teammates are out?
Yeah, I think so. And I think, as Drew continues to establish, relationships with his guys and trust, I think trust is the biggest thing between a quarterback and a wideout. And then, too, I think just finding different ways to get our playmakers in space. And, I think as you see that, and I think, Cam Dorner, somebody that continues to come along. I think, Wyatt played phenomenal last week, and is off to a great start this year. Getting Caleb Hawkins the ball in so many different ways, I think, is important, showing that he's really good in space. He's hard to bring down. And so, yeah, I mean, I think, Trey Williams brings, kind of a different, kind of has a different edge about himself. He can do such a variety of different things for us in the pass game and the run game. so, yeah, I mean, I think once you become more and more balanced, like we've become the last couple weeks, I think that makes it a lot harder for a defense to kind of pinpoint and take something away from you. And so yeah, I mean, I think, that's what's always made these offenses really, really potent is you're really not able to focus on one person.
And in these last couple weeks, there's been some struggles in y'all's rushing defense. What's it going to take to get back on track again this week?
Yeah, we got to do a good job of limited explosives. I mean, I think just the ups and downs of that. I mean, if you take away 3 of the runs, and 2, we kind of knew this coming in. I mean, Henry last week was super explosive, and if you don't think he is, I mean, shoot, I mean, he's had a 75-yard run pretty much every dang game, and that's at Kyle Field. I mean, that's playing some really good talent out there too, and so that was a big point of emphasis, and never feels good when he's able to pop it on the first play of the game, and you're like, holy moly, hopefully we got that out of the way. And so, like I said last week, and going back and really studying that film and the way we were able to play consistently down the stretch, I was so proud of the way our kids responded after that. I mean, that was I think a turning point in the game where we could have gone the other direction and not bowed up, and just see the effort on some of the fumbles that we're able to, they're going on a great drive there, and just an effort play by Sadiq to get that fumble out. As they were going on a long drive, we were able to respond and go down and score, and I think it put us up 4 scores at that point. And so, yeah, there's no fight in this team, and which has been a lot of fun to see.
In the last game, of course, Fish and Shane went down middle of the game. Miles was out. How are you guys just looking injury-wise this week?
Yeah, so all of you guys have worked some in practice this week, and I think on a short week, it's something that you want to monitor, kind of how their progress is going. And so, definitely not rolled out by any stretch of the imagination, but we'll have to see, especially on a short week, just kind of if we can get them ready in the training room. And so been limited, and those 2 have, and so we'll have to monitor their situation the next 2 days.
And of course, you guys are playing in a tough American this year, but UAB was able to pull off that upset against Memphis, and there's still a few games left to play. But how do you like your chances in the American right now with that game out of the way?
Yeah, I don't like them at all if we can't beat Charlotte right now, and so you try to get me on that one. So trying to keep everybody to have tunnel vision right now, I think is going to be extremely important. And I think those games are so good to learn from, just because our kids look up and those are ones, and you see that happen, and then that late that night, some of our kids talking about the next morning, hey, did you see Stanford at Florida State? And you just see all these things kind of happen in real time, and I think it's just great reminders to us, that the minute that we relax and think we're a little bit better than what we are, and start reading up about how good we are, some of those things come back to bite you.
Speaking on that, Coach, following the last week's game, Coach Traylor gave you guys credit for responding very well to that South Florida loss. How did you kind of see that response throughout the week of preparation and that game itself? Yeah,
I thought we were really good. That Tuesday practice, as good a practice as we've had all year. Wednesday was almost just flipped night and day. I mean, I heard more coaches screaming, yelling than I have maybe the whole entire year. And just for little stuff, and our guys, I didn't think were focused, restarted a bunch of periods during it. And from time to time, you need that. I mean, I think that was kind of a point during the week, and I thought they responded later in the practice when they got challenged and called out a little bit for being a little bit of a lackluster start to the way it happened. And all of it was mental. I mean, it was things of kids being lazy and not locked in and not doing their job, and just simple stuff that we do routinely around here. And so, yeah, I mean, I thought it was kind of the tell of 2 days on our work days. Tuesday really good, Wednesday not good at all. And then I thought we finished up good. I thought Thursday and Friday were really sharp, and before the game, I thought that they were extremely locked in. And as a coach, I think you always get a feeling, kind of when you go out there for pregame, just feed off the energy a little bit of how your guys are moving around. And I thought our guys were ready to prove a point last week.
In these last two games, late in the game, it's obviously a big difference in points. We didn't see Reese Poffenberger. Has there been more of an emphasis in just getting these younger guys experience in the middle of the season, or is that just something that you guys wanted to do?
Yeah, I think anytime kind of, and late in a game like that where we're up, if we needed Reese at any time, he's available and continues to practice great for us right now and is locked in. Has been as good on the sideline as anybody I've ever been around as far as just eyes and ears for Drew and being able to, have the tablets on the sideline and sit down and be a sounding board. So Reese has been awesome. And I think, getting Chris out there, when we put some of those young guys in, I think those will be guys of the future that he'll end up playing with. And so definitely, any experience those guys can get while trying to keep and just monitoring those situations. We keep a running clock of the guys that, get close to their 4. And so it'll be a situation, when you get into those where you never want to get. I think that was Chris's second game that he's played in now. And so obviously, the situation will determine kind of who we put in.
Across college football, there's been a little bit of a discourse about head coaches calling plays. And obviously you guys, and you still call plays here and have the #1 offense in the country. But places like UTSA have had a lot of scrutiny with their offensive coordinator and or head coach calling plays. How do you kind of manage doing 2 roles in one on a game day, and especially managing a team like this that has been so successful?
Yeah, for me, I think the biggest thing is when I hire, like Drew Swoboda is so valuable for me on game day just because he's been a head coach forever. He's in the kicking game all the time, so any kind of transition of the ball, he's always involved in it. And so he's a guy that acts a bunch of times and being able to be the guy that's talking to me constantly just on game management decisions when I am, over on the sideline and we're making adjustments or anything of that. And so it's something, and I think, I'd be lying to say it's something that I haven't thought about. If I am in the moment that I don't think I can handle both responsibilities and do everything that I need to keep the team moving in the right direction, to be, fundraising, to be active out in the donor base and be able to communicate. It's something that I don't take lightly, having both of those responsibilities right now. But I also think it's super important for me just to hire people that are smart, that have been in that role before and understand. Drew's as good of a game management guy. He studies it all the time. We have all kinds of analytic stuff that we look at on a week-to-week basis and able to discuss different situations that come up. He wasn't real fired up about my decision to run a draw play on the end of the half last week, to tell you that much. But yeah, I think it's something that I enjoy doing. I enjoy still studying the game and having a huge impact on what happens on Saturdays. But yeah, I think there's a bunch of different ways to look at that.
Yeah, and of course, in play calling, you guys have been really good in the red zone this year. You lead the country with 40 total red zone scores. What do you feel like kind of translated? You're in the middle of the year this year. What do you feel like translated from this time last year?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, the ability to run the ball. It's huge for us right now. I think our offensive line has improved drastically, not only running the football, but also pass protection. And I think that's been 2 things that stand out in my head right now. And we've been able to utilize the quarterback's legs down there, and we're not truly a zone read team that's going to go and get Drew 10 to 12 carries a game. Don't look at it that way, but do think when we get down in those situations, anytime that the quarterback run game is a part of it, I think that opens up a lot of different things for us as an offense. And so, I think you've seen times where we've had a lot more rushing touchdowns, maybe more than I ever have as a play caller. So I think that probably has something to do with it. And then also, this last week, I think we were able to find some ways to throw the football down there. And so then, and that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. I think once you see, the teams and you study our tape and the way we're running the ball effectively down there, obviously they're going to try to now stack the box and opens up some one-on-ones for us on the perimeter.
What do you see in Charlotte?
Yeah, this is a team right now, and I think too, I've been here. And Tim, I think, is known as a program builder. Just to look at his background and what he was able to do at Ohio. A good friend of mine took over at Ohio, and so just talking to him, over the course of the last couple of years, and the way he was able to build that program was phenomenal. And I think, you see a guy that they're getting better and better. I think, they got two really explosive wideouts. They got two quarterbacks. One's a dual threat guy that you got to prepare for, and one's a little bit more of a pocket passer. Two really good linebackers. The safety, their safety makes tackles all over. I don't even know how many tackles their safety number 6 has. Conley is just phenomenal. All over the field. And so obviously for us, I think they're really good in the kicking game. And it's something that when you really look at it, they got explosive returners. They've been great in their coverage. And I think that they're primed right now. They just keep getting a little bit better and better as they're building this program. And I think that's what you see out of good coaches. And so for us to be able to come in this thing and be able to be locked in and everything, and just continue to do the things that we've been doing well, and not revert back, because I think that this is a defense that likes to pressure a little bit more than what we saw. We're going to have to be really good in our pass protection. Our backs need to be back. They'll play some man-to-man a little bit more than what we've seen this year, and then just be ready what they're going to do quarterback-wise, to see who's in there and be able to, your game plan changes, your calls change a little bit to be able to add for the quarterback run game. And then too, just for us, a challenge, I think, for us to go on the road and when we have been on the road this year, which we haven't in a while right now, so that's something for me, to get our guys back ready. And then, we've had to win in overtime the 2 times that we've been on the road. And so, so obviously, that's something that always creeps in my mind right now is we got to handle this trip to the East Coast, the time change, playing at night, all these different things, and we got to do a great job at handling all that.
And you come in this week with the number 1 offense in the country with so many new pieces. You got a new starting quarterback. You got, a young running back that started. You got a lot of new wide receivers. What's helping you get to this point where you guys are the number 1 team out there?
Yeah, I think a collective effort of, our coaches have done a phenomenal job, and then our kids have done a phenomenal job of making plays when they've had the opportunities. And I think as you come into these seasons, it never progresses exactly how you think, and I think obviously having a quarterback perform the way he has this year is a huge indicator of why we're having that success. He's the guy that has the keys to the car every single play. And then, it wasn't on my bingo card that our true freshman running back would be in the position he is right now and continue to earn the reps and the carries and the different roles that he has in this offense. And then too, just when our guys have had chances to make plays, they've made plays out there. And so hats off to them. Our coaching staff, we have a pretty collective unit in our offensive staff where everybody's responsible for something. And I think them continuing to bring good ideas while we're keeping it all within our structure and not going over barrier where we're still running our system, giving the defense different looks with our plays, as opposed to just throwing a lot of plays on the wall. Because, if I can drop a lot of cool plays, if our players can't understand them and execute them at a high level, then we have issues. And so I think our coaches have done a nice job of giving an appearance of a bunch of different stuff on Saturdays, when in all reality, it's a bunch of similar things for our kids.
And just to wrap up here, one of those guys that's been a key part of your guys' ascent to being the number 1 offense is Cam Dorner, who comes in here as a transfer. What have you seen from Cam over the course of the first half of the season?
I've seen progression and growth, which is a good thing, and I think making the jump up to this level, I think hasn't always, just been the healthiest since he's been here, but he's worked extremely hard to get over some stuff. And I think just the trust that Drew has in him. He's an extremely good route runner. He's really twitchy at the line of scrimmage. He's got great hands when he's around him. We've seen him make catches when he has his body in all kinds of different positions. And so, I think the trust that he's built Drew, and then I think just maximizing his opportunities when they came his way. And when you do that as a player, I think, your coaches start trusting you, and then, we try to find more ways to get him the ball because when you do get it to him, good things tend to happen.
Is he one of those guys where you just found some key pieces here and there to add to this offense that have made a difference?
Yeah, I think so. With us in the portal, it's something where we haven't, just been able to outbid people and go and, just stack up, which we found talent in so many different ways. And I think there's a lot of different ways to do it in this era. But he was a guy that has just played so many football games. He's caught so many balls over the course of his career. Something, when the lights come on, he doesn't hesitate. And I think that's all signs of really good receivers. And so yeah, I think he's got a skill set, and a body type that I think, he has a talent to play on Sundays. You just have to continue to make the most of these opportunities and continue to win in one-on-one coverage.
All right, cool. Thanks, Coach.
Thank y'all.
All right, Fish. You guys had such a great game last week, got the short week this week. How do you guys go about staying focused heading into the Charlotte game?
Really just understanding that it's a short week and it's a mental week. We know that they got the advantage with more time and we have less time, but just getting the mental reps in practice because the practice is limited reps, so you really got to stay focused on the reps that you don't get or the ones that you're going to see in the game.
Yeah, and what do you see in Charlotte as you guys prepare for this game?
Multiple quarterbacks. You always got to prepare for multiple quarterbacks because both quarterbacks do two different things and they both do things great. So just making sure we stay on top and trusting the person next to us and doing our 111th.
Yeah, you've seen some upsets in this league. Is this one of these situations, especially going on the road on a short week, that you just can't take a team lightly?
No, sir. We don't take any teams lightly. We just got to play our brand of football and make sure that we trust the guy next to us and do what we're supposed to do, and we should get the job done.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about your guys' offense that you guys faced. Throughout the offseason, they come into this week number 1. Did you see that coming? Did you think that they had that kind of talent?
Oh, yes, I've definitely seen it since I got here in the spring, what type of offense this was. Very high-powered offense. And when we're in practice and go back and forth in practice, and I know if they go back and forth on this defense, because it's a very good defense, then I know they'll be good on Saturdays.
Yeah, let's work on a story on Cam Dorner for this week. He was the guy that came in as you did as a transfer. What have you seen from him and his growth throughout the year?
His consistency, really. Cam, he's explosive, he's quick, and he's smart. He understands the little things at receiver.
Coach just kind of talked about, you guys feeling a little more motivated after South Florida. You had a great Tuesday practice, and he said that Wednesday practice was really rough. What did you see as a player in terms of how the team responded to that loss and then that UTSA performance?
For the South Florida game, we had a choice to make where we're going to let this game define us or we're going to bold up. So we texted in our athletes group chat to just stay focused, understand that the goal was still the goal, and we got to play. Everybody bought in that next Monday practice, and it showed up on last Saturday.
So you're evaluating last Saturday. What do you think just went so well for you guys?
We got back to our brand of football, our starting fast, our creating turnovers, getting the ball to the offense with good field position is one thing that's really helped us this season.
Absolutely. And then this past camp, obviously you mentioned some of the goals you want for the team. Winning the American Conference, making to the college football playoffs. How have you kind of seen that goal come to life, during the season so far, and how much more work do you imagine there is for you guys?
Well, each win, it comes to fruition each week, and we see, every week, every win, our goals are attainable. And now, not just the starters or the twos, but everybody in the entire organization now sees that it's doable if we just buy in.
Hey, Fish, obviously you're in the secondary. The last couple of weeks, this defense has had their struggles in the rushing game. What steps have you guys taken in practice this week to get you guys back on track against Charlotte?
Just pick up the intensity of practice, whether it's tagging off or knowing your fits. Make sure in practice, when you fit and stay there to know that that's where you're supposed to be. So just the intensity and everything else, yeah.
You guys have been able to go against some of the best rushers in the country, whether it's a quarterback or a running back. How do you feel like that's kind of been able to help y'all as a whole defensively get more prepared for the end of this season?
We've seen the best backs. We've seen one of the best backs last week, and just making sure we tackle it, make sure we get it down to run the next play. If we get the opposing offense to run the play again and they don't score, just run the next play, then we'll be good.
A big emphasis was obviously forcing turnovers, back-to-back games with 3+ turnovers. How do you feel like that continues to translate week after week. What are y'all kind of doing to make that happen, it feels like?
We see that as the standard. Like, that's one of our blueprints. That's a standard that we're supposed to go out and do on Saturday. Like, those 3 turnovers, that's the bare minimum for us at least.
You know, and you're going against a very struggling Charlotte team, offensively 17 points a game. What have you kind of seen from them, and how do you feel like you guys can continue to capitalize with these really less yarded amount given up in a game?
They have athletes on their team. We just got to go out there, play our brand of football, and make sure we just hold them to what we hold them to.
All right, cool. So you guys come off the big win. How are you guys staying focused in a short week before you head to Charlotte?
Yeah, with the short week makes practices go by quicker. The week goes by quicker, travel quicker. So I think just focusing on this week, getting our bodies right and doing the proper things to, get rest, and stay healthy for this next week and focus on Charlotte.
And what do you see in Charlotte?
Charlotte, I mean, obviously I don't think the record represents what they are. And obviously we see it now in college football nowadays that good teams get beat oftentimes and by teams that are, underestimated, I guess. So, I mean, I see a team that, competed with USF for coming out the second half. And, when, things are clicking, they can be a good team. So we have to prepare like any other week.
Yeah, and you've had such a great first year here. What's helped you get off to such a terrific start after transferring in?
I think I'd say the confidence that, the coaches and my teammates have in me. They always knew I could do it. I always knew I could do it. I always knew I can go out there and, get open, catch the ball with ease and stuff like that. But, I think my coaches, Drew puts me in a very good spot to go out there and make the plays I do. So, and then also just kind of just being a locker room presence, being one of the first ones to show up, one of the last ones to leave the field every day. And I think just keep stacking my days, getting the catches in after practice, and it goes to show on Saturdays for sure.
Is this kind of what you envisioned when you came here?
Yeah, this is for sure what I envisioned. I envisioned coming into a winning program. I envisioned going in, trying to make a difference no matter if, I get 1,000 yards or 500 yards. I want to contribute to a winning football team. It doesn't really matter how many yards or so, but just when my name's called on, I have to make the play, and that's where I'm at,
Yeah, number 1 offense in the country heading into this week. What has made you guys so productive across the board?
Yeah, I think our preparation and practice has been very key. Us being on the same page as a quarterback, especially in the receiving room, is just very important. Going out there, not having any misassignments, having those blocks down the field, doing the little things right in preparation throughout the week, I think has been helping us go out there with confidence on Saturday.
And you're not the only one that's new to this offense that's really helped you guys get there. You got a freshman running back that's playing pretty well, and some of the veteran guys like Wyatt have really made a dramatic step forward. Why have you guys come together so well in this season?
I think honestly, the chemistry of this team is very good. In the locker room, you can kind of see it. Everybody bonds with each other. So when we get out on the field, everybody's real comfortable with each other. And I think that, that obviously helps out there, the familiarity with each other. Having that chemistry, you go out and see Caleb Hawkins, he can take a check down for 30 yards. And it's like, we also see that in practice a lot. So I think, the preparation, chemistry, and practice has been what has been, helping us come together in the game for sure.
Is that generally just what makes you guys so effective offensively, just that chemistry?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, it's it helps to have a pretty good quarterback at that position. So he's very precise and then the coaches what they teach us, being on the same page as him, making sure that we're running the route the way he wants it, we're running the route, coming back to the ball the way he wants it, and making sure that the receiver room is very quarterback friendly. And I think we've done a great job this year of that.
Yeah, Cam, for you, you've been really productive these past 2 games consecutively against, South Florida and UTSA. What's been working for you in those particular games so far?
Yeah, just kind of focusing on playing fast, just doing the little things, whatever it takes for my team, whatever, I need to be at to help the team win, whether that's blocking downfield, going down, cracking a safety, or, just running the routes that I usually run. I think just do what I do, playing my game, I think, has taken me to where I am now. So, yeah.
Coach Morris kind of mentioned that, as they kind of, become more known for that running game, the skill positions like you, will have to step up and be able to win those one-on-one matchups. How do you look forward to that kind of challenge?
Yeah, I mean, as a receiver, I think my game is, I live for the one-on-ones. I live for, the off man 7 yards and I'm one-on-one into the boundary and, things like that. As a receiver, I live for those type of stuff. I want to be out there guarded one-on-one. That's just, it's pretty, if you beat one guy, you basically win the route. So I think having that confidence within myself, knowing that I can run every route in the tree, I can, shift the guy off his platform, I can, stick and do whatever it takes to get open, come back to the ball. So I think that's where that confidence comes from, making plays.
Not only have y'all been just successful overall offensively, but it's been in the red zone. If you guys have scored 40 times in the red zone out of 42, one of the best percentages. What do you feel like attributes to that? And especially, I know you weren't here last year, but that was a struggle last year. Coach Morris emphasized it during spring and fall. What do you feel like attributes to y'all's success so far?
That's a good question. I'd say definitely the improvement of the run game this year has definitely helped that, and it's definitely set up pretty much, I think, quite frankly, our whole offense. When we do things like play action, when we get to the goal, when we run, if you can get 4 yards in the carry and we go to the goal line, run play action, it's going to be pretty sweet. Things are going to be open, like people are expecting to run from Caleb Hawkins or Mackenzie McGill. But yeah, that type of thing, I think that's opened up our offense in the red zone. On top of that, we have receivers going in there blocking. We got big 6, Trey Williams going in there blocking. And I think we have a gritty O-line on, and putting all those things together, I think, our red zone, there's no secret to our red zone offense,
Coach Morris talked a little bit about his play calls have been risky at times. Do you kind of see that, and how do you feel like some of these risky play calls this year have been successful and they've worked for y'all? How do you feel like that works?
I wouldn't say anything particularly anything that he's done has been risky to me. I go out there, I run the play that's called. That's my job. So, to me, I think he's a phenomenal play caller. I think he sets us up in a great position every time on offense. So I wouldn't say anything about him being risky or anything. No, I think we're trying to go out there and score as many points. So I think that's his job. This is his goal.
Yeah. And, obviously you're a transfer here, but these last 2 games, a lot of fan support, especially the South Florida game. What was that kind of like playing in front of these loud atmospheres, like, at home?
Yeah, that's pretty cool to be in a sold out environment. I think it was like 31,000 or 32,000 people there, pretty packed up. That whole backside of the wing was filled up, so that was pretty cool to see. And obviously my first time being a part of that big scene, so. Man, I just think it's fun to play in that type of thing. I've always lived up to my environment. I've always played up to my environment. The big stakes don't really faze me, honestly. I think it's fun being out there with all those people out there. I just get more eager to make a play, and I get more excited to make a play. So I think, something I've always done is rise to the level of occasion. So, yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks, Cam.
Sir, thank you.